Well, here we are. Boy, that went really poor really fast. See, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Anyways, I'm your host, Doug from Ontario, Canada. Truckers Podcast, FYI, conversations without barriers, unpacking the noise. So lately, I've been trying to get out here to do a show. And I would set up the show and I would do test shows before I do my show, like I do all the time. So, how are you doing? It's been a while time since I've seen you out here. It's been a little while for me being out here too, because I've just been having a lot of difficulties with my Wi-Fi. And every attempt that I came out here, I do test shows before I even start my show. And it was so consistent when the show would hit the 3-minute mark, the connection would go poor and it wouldn't come back. And then I would check my Wi-Fi connection or reset the Wi-Fi in the house. And it would do it again. So then I'm trying to run any analytics on my laptop of why, this is happening. Couldn't figure it out. So I decided to reset the laptop. And then it continued to do it. It would cut out at the 3-minute mark and have a poor connection. So I got two different Wi-Fis in this house. I have 5G and then just regular Wi-Fi. And then I connected a Wi-Fi repeater. So I don't know. This is why I haven't been out for a while too, because not being able to keep a connection. And I thought, how am I going to do my podcast? I would have to do it via YouTube, and then try to get everybody else. See, it's just gone poor again. Hope to crikey it comes back. See, this is what I was talking about. That was the 3-minute mark, by the way. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Try to refresh this. Hope I don't lose everybody and lose the. Now it says I'm back. See, this is bullshit. I probably now, you're probably gone now. Right? So, yeah, there you are. Yeah, see, it was the 3-minute mark when it did that, and then I refreshed it. But I shouldn't have to do that. Unbelievable. That's what it's been doing. So, well, now I think it'll probably stay connected. I don't know, but I'm gonna do the show. That's exactly what I'm gonna do, and then hopefully it just goes. But anyways, you know, like I really don't understand Donald Trump, right? I don't think anybody really understands Donald Trump. With potential tariffs on the horizon that he wants to put on Mexico and Canada, he's only really taxing you, the Americans. Canada does not pay that tariff. The American people will pay that 25% on their cost of living, not Canada. But on the flip side, Canada put tariffs on the United States. Canadians will pay that tariff, not the United States. I don't know what part of that he doesn't understand, or he's just playing stupid. I don't know, or that he is really stupid. you know, telling the American people during his campaign that, tariffs are his favorite word in the dictionary. Then talking about taking over Greenland militarily if necessary, which is not possible. Also, the Panama Canal. He thinks that China is operating the Panama Canal, is down there working and operating it and everything else like that. We know that's not true. And then he wants to annex Canada using economic force and making Canada the 51st state, calling our Prime Minister Governor Trudeau. See, he's not insulting our Prime Minister by calling him Governor Trudeau. He's insulting Canadians. Right? Will we take California? Well, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to annex part of any of the United States. You're a sovereign nation, and so is Canada. So now he's really making a lot of trouble for himself, right? Now, I think, all this rhetoric coming from Donald Trump, talking about, like I said, overtaking Greenland, the Panama Canal, and also talking about using economic force to annex Canada, make it the 51st state. I think Donald Trump not only failed 101 economics, but also fell asleep during that class. Same goes for history class and geography. Now, you probably saw him posting a picture standing on a mountain with the Canadian flag, which is Switzerland, by the way, not Canada. And it's a good thing the pilot of Air Force One knows where he or she is flying that aircraft, because fucking Donald Trump wouldn't even know. Now, a little history, about Canada. I mean, I don't think he even learned history about Canada when he was going to school, whether it was grade school, middle school, high school, college, university. I don't know, fucking girls' school he went to, maybe. I don't know, right? So, talking about annexing Canada, let's break down why that's not possible. Canada's sovereignty. Canada is an independent nation with its own government, laws, constitution. It has been self-governing since 1867 and fully independent since 1982. And why I say that is when we made the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is our Constitution. So the Charter of Rights and Freedoms came into effect in 1982. International law, according to Article 2 of the United Nations Charter, all member states must refrain from threat or use of force against territorial integrity or political independence of any state. Any attempt to annex Canada through economic or military force would be a violation of international law. Canada is a member and one of the founding members of NATO, which is a military alliance that includes the United States. And any attempt to annex a fellow NATO member would not only violate international law, but also disrupt the alliance in its collective defensive principles, treaties, and agreements. The relationship between Canada and the United States is governed by numerous treaties and agreements that respect the sovereignty of both nations. And the attempt to annex Canada would violate these agreements and disrupt the diplomatic relationships between the two countries. Economic impact imposing tariffs on other economies, you know, um, to force annexation or harm would harm both Canada and the United States economy. So getting back to the tariffs. During Donald Trump's campaign, he says tariffs is a beautiful word. It's his favorite word in the dictionary. And I bet you he's never even looked up the word tariff in the dictionary. And I'm pretty sure he knows what a tariff is anyways. He knows that it's a tax. And during his campaign, he's telling the American people that, the tariffs that he places on countries, that country pays the tariff, which is not the case. And I'm pretty sure you know that as well. Right? So the businesses in the United States that buy from Canada, they pay the tariff. That tax gets paid to the government of the United States. And do you think for 1 second that those companies who paid that extra 25% for that product, you think they're just going to let that slide? They got to get that money back. So you, the American people, are going to pay. You're going to pay more. And vice versa. Now, Donald Trump, he turns around and he says, oh, we're subsidizing Canada to the tune of like $200 billion. The other day, he said it was something like $250 billion. Subsidizing Canada? Like, where's this money? Like, how's he subsidizing Canada? Now he's maybe talking about a trade deficit. Well, there is a trade deficit. And, the American currency is stronger than the Canadian dollar. Mathematics, simple math, for let's say the Canadian dollar is worth 75 cents American. So the United States would get 25 cents on every dollar because the dollar is stronger. For every $100, if you exchange your American money to Canadian, you'll get $25 on that 100. On $1,000, you get $250. Now, for me, if I wanted to exchange my money, if I went to the United States to take my Canadian money and exchange it to American money, and if I exchanged $1,000 from Canadian to American, I would lose $250. I would only get $750. So your dollar is stronger for purchasing power. So you buy our oil, you buy our energy, you buy whatever products that you use in the United States and sell, and you get a good bang for the buck. On the other hand, Canada loses on the currency exchange when we're buying from America. So we buy less. So if there's a trade deficiency, which there is, it's roughly around $40 billion. Not $200 billion. He's not like, he's not subsidizing Canada, right? I was reading an article the other day too, on this as well. Our energy that we sell to the United States, like for hydro and stuff like that, and our oil, our lumber, we're actually giving you a deal on that. So we're subsidizing you. But now that Donald Trump wants to add 25% on all Canadian goods, and that's including oil and everything else, and your energy, that's going to cost American people 25% more on top of what you're paying already. And believe me, Canada, if Donald Trump does go through with the tariffs, Canada will retaliate with tariffs. And it's not good for the Canadian people because we're going to pay whatever amount of tariffs Canada decides to put on the United States for retaliatory tariffs. It's not good for both nations. Now, Donald Trump did this during his first term in 2018. He put tariffs on aluminum and steel. And we retaliated with our own tariffs. And really hit the red states with these tariffs. Well, that didn't last long. So, Canada, we've had a couple premiers and stuff like that go down there, not just our prime minister. Went down there to Mar-a-Lago, have a talk with Trump and his team and everything. Whatever conversations they had, and whether it sinks into to Donald Trump's brain, I have no idea. I don't know if his brain absorbs anything. I really don't know. You can tell that I don't like Trump, and that's just how it is. A lot of people don't like Donald Trump. Because he can't simply just stand up and tell the truth to the American people. That's pretty sad. I mean, Republican or not, Republicans are going to vote Republican regardless of who's running for the United States. If it's a Republican running for the presidency, a Republican voter is going to vote Republican. Doesn't matter if that person has or is a convicted felon, been found guilty of sexual misconduct. You're going to vote Republican because you're a Republican. And nothing's going to change your mind. You're not going to go and vote Democrat. And Democrats aren't going to go vote Republican. It's just the way it is. See, here in Canada, we have the Liberal Party, we have the Conservative Party, we have the NDP Party, we have the Quebec Bloc Party, we have the Green Party. And yes, Canadians, when we vote, not all Canadians, but some Canadians jump ship. They don't like the Liberal Party anymore, so they're going to vote Conservative. Or they're going to vote NDP. Or they're going to vote Green Party. Or Quebec Bloc. But then there are people who just vote Conservative for the Conservative Party. I've done it. I've voted Liberal before. I've voted a Democrat before. I've voted Conservative before. Yes, our prime minister is stepping down from being prime minister. He's got a lot of internal problems with his party. His polling, is probably the lowest of any prime minister in history. So he is stepping down. So now, coming March, when the Liberal Party elect their new leader of the Liberal Party, then that person, male or female, whatever, will take over as prime minister. See, here in Canada, you don't run for prime minister like you do, like you run for president in the United States. You have to first be a member of a party, and then you have to be elected of that party to be the leader of that party. And when an election comes along, that party with the most seats wins a minority government or a majority government, and that leader of that party becomes prime minister. That's how that works. We don't have millionaires and billionaires just stepping up and running for prime minister. It doesn't work that way. And besides, you have to be bilingual. You have to speak French and English fluently. That's another part of being Prime Minister of Canada. Now, Canada and American economy, we're the largest trading partner of the United States. So, in disrupting this relationship would lead to higher prices for consumers and economic instability on both sides of the border. And it will lead to higher prices for consumers. So Trump's threats are not only baseless, but also counterproductive. The United States should focus on strengthening their partnership in addressing common challenges rather than engaging in decisive and unrealistic rhetoric. Putting his foot in his mouth every time he opens up his mouth. Doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about half the time. Economics around people who are in economics around the world, professional people, are scratching their heads, and thinking, even economists here in Canada, they're thinking, how in the hell does Donald Trump thinking that, he's subsidizing us $250 billion? Like, where does that even come from? Because it's not happening, first and foremost. Now, believe me, I mean, I've just tried to to stay out of it, right? And I can say to my fellow Canadians too, when Trump is calling Trudeau a governor of Canada, he's not just insulting the prime minister, whether you like him or not, but he's insulting Canadians. When he did that photo op with the Canadian flag standing on those mountains in Switzerland, that's not Canada. I find it offensive that a president of the United States is doing that in the first place. right? So I tried, really, I have. I've tried to stay out of the political realm, but when you're using such rhetoric of annexing Canada, making it the 51st state, and standing with the Canadian flag in some far off land that's not even Canada, all he's done is just pissed off Canadians. And then you wonder why we're going to get pissed off. I mean, it's not going to happen anyways, right? It's not even possible. But it just pisses us off. I mean, you don't see our prime minister doing that. Never have. I mean, when we have an election, we're going to have an election sooner or later. After March, more than likely, because the House of Commons is going to revene in March. It's on pause right now while the Liberal government, the Liberal Party of Canada is going to elect a new leader of that party, which then who will become prime minister. And then once Parliament revenes, then they're going to have a non-confidence vote in the House of Commons. And if they get that non-confidence vote, then we will have an election. Because our election isn't until like October of this year. But we could have an early election. So let's say Pierre Poilievre, the conservative leader of the Conservative Party, wins the election, becomes prime minister. Now, is Trudeau going to turn around and call Pierre Poilievre governor of Canada and just keep insulting Canadians? How much of that is Pierre Poilievre going to take? Trudeau's already said to Donald Trump, um, there's no snowball in hell that Canada will become the 51st state. I liked how he threw snowball in there because it's fucking winter time, right? Oh, I'm not going to lose. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, right? And it's not going to make me go crazy. I just finally had to get this off my chest. And I wanted to be doing this. I wanted to get out here for the last couple of weeks and do this because, I needed to. And then all this problem I've been having. Well, you saw the problem, Redneck Rambler. You saw the problem right at the 3-minute mark. My internet connection went to poor. And then I refreshed it, and then it hasn't done it since. But it was doing that consistently. That's why I haven't been able to do a show. So so finally, when I finally, it decided on its own that it's going to work, except for that glitch that we had at 3-minute mark, I had to get this off my chest. So and the thing is though too, Trump's followers believe every word that he says. I'm pretty sure they do. Right? And of course, there's a lot of smart Republicans out there that know that Donald Trump is full of shit, but they're Republicans. That doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fact that they're Republicans. They're going to vote for him regardless. But the scary thing is that when you get people who don't really understand the economics. I mean, simple 101 economics when it comes to tariffs. Tariffs is a tax. But when he tells his followers that he puts a tariffs on a country and that country pays that tax, they believe that. Oh, Canada's going to pay us fucking money. No, Canada is not going to pay you any money. You know, like I said, you, the American people, are going to pay that tax at the end of the day, and vice versa. You know, and that's a scary thing for American people. I mean, when they come to realize, they go, oh, wait a second, we're being duped here. He said Canada's going to pay that tax. He said Mexico's going to pay that. And then they come to realize that, no, you're going to pay that. And then the other thing, though, too, you know, people who are mentally challenged and they hear this rhetoric from Donald Trump saying he's going to annex Canada and take over Canada and stuff like that, it's going to be a scary thing. You know, not only is it wrong, but it's really irresponsible on Donald Trump. I mean, if you know anybody who's mentally challenged, you know, and they seem concerned, you know, even here, like to my fellow Canadians and stuff like that, you got to reassure them that that's not going to happen. You're always going to be Canadian. We're always going to be a sovereign nation. I don't have anything against the American people. I like the American people. I can't stand that dickhead Donald Trump like everybody else. Throughout my journey as a trucker, when I did cross the border, traveled all over the United States, met a lot of great people. You know, you need a leader that's not going to be irresponsible like Donald Trump. You really do. I think in the United States, don't get me wrong, I think in the United States that um, you gotta change your political system. And you gotta have a better criteria of who can be president of the United States. And certainly not convicted felons of any sort to be president of the United States. Like, you don't even have to be a member of Congress. You don't even have to be a governor in the United States to run for president. I mean, if you got a great plan, you put a great plan together and you can raise the millions of dollars to run for president of the United States, you can run for the president of the United States. You don't have to be a governor. And I think that's how it should be. I don't want to meddle in your government, but I think only governors, anybody who is a governor of a state, they're the only ones that can run for president. Not anybody from the outside. You want to be part of the government, or you want to make your way up to be a governor, then start being a mayor. Try being a mayor or city councilor, and then go to mayor and work your way up to governor. And if you want to run for president of the United States, you got 50 states. You got 50 governors to choose from, Republican and Democrats, to be president of the United States. Not just some Tom, Dick, and Harry. Yeah, Obama, he was a governor. So was Kamala, or a senator, sorry. He was a senator. But somebody high up in government, not some millionaire or billionaire. You got a lot. You got a lot of great people there that is a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump, and it was pathetic to watch during the debate against when he was debating against Kamala Harris. It was really pathetic. Anybody who is respectful and intelligent, you know, wouldn't have gone off with the rhetoric that he went off with. I don't know who George Soros is. I don't know who that is. But anyways, it's how your political system runs in the United States. You the American people have to deal with that. You should be right into Congress for changes on how people get elected to be president of the United States. Right? No convicted felon here in Canada would be able to run for prime minister. You don't run for prime minister of Canada anyhow. But you wouldn't be a member of any party if you're a convicted felon. And we certainly wouldn't be putting up with this craziness. And these crazy agendas. That runs through Donald Trump's mind. I just can't even comprehend it. You know, I just shake my head and think, what the fuck? How does American people actually put up with that bullshit? Kind of feel sorry for you in a way. Well, matter of fact, I do feel sorry for you. Well, you know what? I mean, Trudeau's Trudeau. I mean, love him or hate him. You know, he's the face of the nation. That's who he is, right? So people got upset with him, because over the COVID mandates, had the Freedom Convoy, back in 2022, locked down Ottawa, stayed there for 3 weeks. Bouncy castles and hot tubs, carnival rides. Fuck, that's the Canadian protest, ladies and gentlemen. But anyhow, he decided that he's going to resign, and he's resigning from the Liberal Party and as Prime Minister of Canada. He's not the only one. His father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, resigned. Jean Chrétien. And a few others. Brian Mulroney. resigned. So he's not the first prime minister to resign, and he won't be the last. Who knows? Pierre Poilievre becomes prime minister of Canada, and you know, couple years down the road, we're having another election. He gets a non-confidence vote in the House of Commons. That happened with Trudeau. 2 years into him being prime minister, or the second term of being in prime minister, then a year or a bit in there, we had another election, and the same results. Didn't change anything. We had a minority government. We ended up with a minority government. Now, for people out there that don't understand, here in Canada, a party can end up with a majority government, which means they don't need votes from other parties in order to pass any laws or legislation. A minority government, on the other hand, what we have right now here in Canada is that party, so the Liberals, they would have to get support and votes from other parties in order to pass legislation and laws. We could very well end up in the next election, we could very well end up with a minority conservative government, which then Pierre Poilievre will not have full reign of the country. That could very well happen. Trudeau was prime minister for 8 years, going on 9 years. And it was the longest running minority government in Canadian history. The results were the same every election. Yeah, read up on how the political system works here in Canada. It's really interesting. Right? Like I said, nobody just runs for prime minister. That's not how it works. I can't run for prime minister of Canada. Like I said, I have to be a member of a party, a member of the Liberals, Conservatives, NDP, the Quebec Bloc, Green Party. But then that party has to elect me as the leader of that party. And the chances of that happening, probably not going to happen if I was a member of that party. And besides, I can't speak French neither. And I'm Canadian. And I should be speaking French. We didn't have French immersion schools, when I was growing up in the 60s. That didn't come later until the 80s. You get more French and get kids speaking French. Speak a couple languages, you go far in life. Especially if you're going to work in the government. Here in Ontario, here in the province of Ontario, in my city, I could run for city councilor, eventually run for mayor. And then after I've had, whatever, a few years as mayor, I could run for the premier of Ontario. Right? So that's different. Federal to provincial is different. You're just, a premier is the same thing as a governor. You have a governor that runs your state. We have a premiers that run the provinces. Same job. Same job description. They run the province. Your governor runs the state. Just two different names. That's it. But we don't have somebody running for prime minister, you know, um, going off the rails, you know, on the crazy train like Donald Trump. Yes, in the House of Commons, they go at each other. That's the way it's always been. But things get rectified, things get done. Some things that we don't like, but things get done nonetheless. Yes, there's 10 provinces, 10 provinces and 3 territories in Canada. That's what we have. And premiers for each of them. Provincial laws, federal laws. So, well, I'm quite happy that, I'm quite happy that the Wi-Fi has stayed going since the start of the show, except for, Redneck Rambler was the first on this show. And, he was part of that poor connection for about a minute. And, when I went to refresh it, I thought I would just lose the show. Probably lost it for a second, but then it came back on. But haven't lost connection. It hasn't gone poor since. So I don't know what the hell happened there. I really don't know. And it was so frustrating, not being able to um, come out and do a podcast. So because I'm like I said to my listeners and my followers that my podcasts are going to be Saturday mornings at 8:30 and Sunday mornings at 8:30. This is just, one of those nights that, I was able to get out. I was able to get out here like I did. I don't know how many when I got home from work today. I don't know how many test shows I did, and then finally when it just corrected itself, I thought, okay, well, you know what? Maybe it's going to work. Just do it. Throw the chips up in the air and see what happens. And just that little blip at the 3-minute mark of the show. Yeah, you know what? That might even be part of it too. With Podbean changing some stuff up too. That could also possibly be it as well, right? I don't think it's my Wi-Fi connection. I really don't. And you couldn't log in the other day. See, I could always log in and I could check the status on my podcast. And like I said earlier, I do a test before I do a show to make sure everything is working. And then when it's not working, I can't do a show. And it was ticking me off. What did I hit? I hit 500 hours I've done of the Truckers Podcast. So 2019 when I started January of 2019 is when I started the podcast. And that was just mostly weekends. There might have been some Mondays in there there as well, but it was mostly just weekends, about roughly an hour a day, and that's it. So yeah, 500 hours um, that I put in. Podbean sent me an email last week, congratulating me of hitting 500 hours. I didn't realize that was that many. I mean, from 2019, just starting out with just basic um, podcast equipment, really inexpensive stuff, you know, and then just changing things up, different, going through different interfaces, and, they were okay, and then I started reading a lot about the Scarlett Focusrite interface. So I started with I think it was the 2i2 third gen, and microphones. Actually, going to the music store and buying microphones. And then, what was it, last year sometime, I think it was last spring or something like that, I updated the interface again to the Scarlett Focusrite 2i2 4th gen. And I'm really pleased with that. And then updated the microphone again to the Shure microphone. And that's the SM7B Shure microphone. So over the years, just slowly just upgrading the equipment and trying to, just to get, better quality sound, and I'm quite pleased with what I have. I don't believe that I need a better microphone than I have right now. I think that's probably about the peak of my budget anyways for this microphone. And of course the Scarlett Focusrite 2i2 4th gen, that was a bit pricey as well. But I'm really impressed with it. And then I decided, you probably heard of the Elgato prompter. So I bought one of those recently. And I like it for my podcast because, then I can put in the points that I want to talk about. And that, so, I mean, this thing, runs off the laptop, this Elgato prompter. I have other teleprompters that, I do for short videos, green screen and that. So I haven't really done a lot of that. I did a New Year's for family and friends, and that's on YouTube as well. Uploaded it to YouTube, and that was done on the green screen and stuff like that. I like to do more of that, but it's just so time consuming, to write the script, download it so it can go on the prompter, setting up all the lighting. And recently I bought the Rube green screen, the retractable one. And yeah, that thing is fantastic. It's the larger size green screen. That thing is fantastic. Doesn't take up any space at all. I had a green screen that was on a tripod, and it like I lost 3 feet of my space. And so I thought, no, I can't do that because it's just too crowded in the space that I have. So this Roubaix green screen retractable one, it takes up like 4 inches of space. So, but I like to do more green screen. It's a lot of fun actually doing that. But it's a lot. It's a lot of work. I mean, for 2.5 minute video, you know, takes a couple of hours to do that. To get it right because you want it to be, as perfect as it possibly can be. Just like my podcast. I just like to get my podcast out there and do as the best that I can, right? So, but I've been also too, if you go back and you listen to my podcast, um, I've been doing a lot about the homelessness here in Canada. I've read already 3 books on homelessness and starting a 4th one. And that's what, basically too. Just the other day I was reading an article, talking about homelessness for a second. Here in Ontario, Canada, Ontario is the largest province in Canada, the most populated province in all of Canada. So we have 40 million people here in Canada, and we have roughly about 18 million that live in Ontario out of that 40 million population. Last year, as of December the 31st, 2024, there were 80,000 homeless people here in the province of Ontario. If that's not a crisis, I don't know what the hell is. 80,000. I can't make that number up. 80,000 just in the province of Ontario. As of December the 31st, 2024. And that's not counting the hidden homeless, because you can't count the hidden homeless. They estimate that there's anywhere from 150,000 to 300,000 Canadians that are homeless across the country on any given night. Toronto, Ontario, Canada, has anywhere from 10 to 12,000 homeless people. So I can see where they easily get 80,000 for the entire province of Ontario who's homeless. So I've been doing a lot of reading on the homeless, and I've been also trying to get the CEO of the Arcade Mission Services on my podcast. I'm going to have to reach out to her again via email, and hopefully get a meeting with her and get that show set up. So hopefully that comes about. So we just keep missing each other. So I really like to get her on this podcast. And that, so, but anyways, enough about rambling on about this, that, and the next thing. Wow, I got an hour in. So, it stayed going for 57 minutes without a disruption in the Wi-Fi. How about that there, Redneck Rambler? I think that's pretty awesome. I'm happy about that. So anyways, I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. This is a rare night for me to be out here, being Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? Yeah, tomorrow's Wednesday. Crikey. It's only hump day. Only the middle of the week. Dang. Well, it is what it is. So, yeah. So we're going to shoot for another show this Saturday. This Saturday coming 8:30 a.m. And Sunday, same time, 8:30 a.m. I will get a show posted up so you get the notification. And if you can join me, that's great. If you can't, I understand. So until this coming Saturday at 8:30 a.m., enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe out there. Take care of each other. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Doug, from Ontario, Canada. And this is the Truckers Podcast, FYI, conversation without barriers. Good night, everybody. You're welcome.